The invitation arrived in a smooth black envelope, sealed with a wax emblem she hadn't seen in over a decade. Even the calligraphy ink smelled familiar. You are cordially requested to attend an urgent family gathering at the Halden estate, 8 p.m. sharp. It was unsigned. But Amara didn't need a signature. She knew who sent it. She sat back in her chair, overlooking the dusky glow of Toronto's skyline from the floor-to-ceiling windows of her office. It had been 17 years since she'd left the Halden name behind. 17 years since her father, Frederick Halden, kicked her out of the family business, family home, and family altogether. Now she was Amara Wynn, founder and CEO of WynnCore, a global leader in neural interface technology and emotional AI. The world knew her as a visionary. Her family remembered her as the one who dared to defy their tradition-bound empire. "Do you want to go?" asked her assistant, James, placing a cup of ginger tea on the table beside her. His voice was quiet, measured, but laced with curiosity. Amara didn't answer right away. She stared at the envelope again, turning it over, examining the wax seal, the Halden crest, 2 ravens perched over a gilded key. The same seal used on the expulsion letter her father sent when she was 23. The irony wasn't lost on her. "What do you think, James?" she said, finally. "After all these years, they summoned me back with pleasantries and urgency. That can only mean one thing." He tapped on his tablet, sliding a file across her smart desk. "Halden Industries is tanking. Their synthetic defense division just lost 2 government contracts. Stocks plummeted 37% in 6 months. Their flagship drone line has been recalled. The board's quietly panicking." Amara smirked. "Let me guess. My brother is still CEO? Finn?" "Yes. But his last 3 product launches failed. Investors are circling." She sipped her tea, eyes still fixed on the glowing skyline. "Book the flight," she said. "I think it's time we had a little reunion." The Halden estate hadn't changed. Nestled in the wooded outskirts of Vancouver, it still loomed like a private fortress, ivy creeping up stone walls, iron gates groaning open under the weight of lineage and judgment. The air carried that same crisp scent of pine and polish, like the house was preserved in amber. As her car pulled to a stop, she saw them. The vintage Rolls-Royce that belonged to her father. The matte black sports car that could only be Finn's. James had insisted a driver wait outside. "Just in case," he'd said. Wise man. She stepped out, her heels clicking against the cobbled path. The butler opened the heavy oak doors before she reached them. He wasn't the same man from her youth, but he bowed all the same. "Miss Halden, welcome home." Amara raised a brow. "It's Wynn now," she said. The man blinked. "Of course, Miss Wynn. Please, this way. The family is in the library." She followed, each step echoing down the same marble corridors where she once memorized business plans and endured her father's endless lectures about legacy and loyalty. She noticed how the portraits lining the hallway had evolved. Finn's face appeared in various stages of success, his university honors, his promotion to CEO, his awards. She wasn't in any of them. It was like she had never existed. Until now. The library door stood open. Inside, her father sat behind the great stone fireplace, regal in his stillness, though the silver in his beard had overtaken the black. Finn reclined in one of the high-backed chairs, hands folded too tightly, jaw clenched too hard. And their mother, quiet, demure Eleanor Halden, stood near the window, a china teacup trembling faintly in her grasp. Amara stepped in but didn't sit. "Let's skip the pretense," she said. "You didn't call me here for tea." Her father rose, slower than she remembered, but with the same practiced poise. "Amara," he said, voice brittle with age. "Thank you for coming." She tilted her head slightly. "I'm curious. What did you call me behind closed doors when you disowned me? The prodigal disgrace? The naive rebel?" Finn flinched. Their mother looked down. "Please," her father said, gesturing to the empty seat across from him. "Sit. We need to talk." "I'll stand." Silence crackled. It was Finn who broke it. "We made mistakes," he said, avoiding her eyes. Look, things are difficult. Halden Industries needs your expertise." There it was. Not an apology. A plea, dressed as an olive branch. Amara smiled coolly. So the empire's crumbling, and now the exile suddenly has value. Her father cleared his throat. You've done remarkable things with WinCore. The defense contracts, the mental health neural interface, the consciousness continuity simulations. You didn't think so when I first proposed those ideas in this very room, she interrupted. I believe your words were childish fantasies from a distracted idealist. A long pause. Then came the pitch. We want you back, her father said. Not just as a consultant. As co-CEO. You and Finn. Together. Rebuild the company. As family. She stared at them both for a long moment. Then reached into her handbag. She pulled out a sleek leather folder and placed it on the table. What's this? Finn asked. The future of Halden Industries, she replied. Her father opened the folder. Inside were acquisition documents, fully legal, airtight, irreversible. What is this? He demanded, voice rising. I've been acquiring Halden shares for over a year, she said. Quietly. Strategically. Through proxies, subsidiaries, blind trusts. As of next week, WinCore owns controlling interest in Halden Industries. Finn's hands trembled. You bought us? No, she said, voice steel and silk. I rescued you. Her father's face turned crimson. This is treachery. No, Amara corrected him. This is business. Isn't that what you always said? That family and feelings should never cloud the numbers? Silence. Her mother set down her teacup with shaking hands. Amara. Please. This is your family. She turned to her mother, her expression unreadable. Where was my family when I was 23 and had nowhere to sleep? When I was pitching to investors between double shifts and living on instant noodles? She looked at her father. When you erased me. No one spoke. I'm not here to make peace, Amara said. I'm here to lead. To fix what you broke. Her father finally whispered, what are your terms? She folded her arms. They're in the documents. But here's the summary, you stay on the board as an advisor. No power. No veto. Finn, if you want to remain, you start from the bottom. No title. No corner office. You earn your place. And the rest of the family? Her mother asked. Amara exhaled. That depends. On whether they're willing to evolve. She turned to leave. I have a boardroom to prepare. The vote's on Monday. As she stepped into the hallway, James handed her a tablet. All press outlets are ready. Board members are aligned. You're officially the new face of Halden. She gave him a slight nod. And didn't look back. Monday morning broke like the calm before a storm. Rain glazed the marble terraces of the Halden estate, dripping steadily from the gutters like time bleeding out of an hourglass. Inside the main conference wing, once her father's private command center, executives whispered nervously, the air heavy with tension and disbelief. This was the day the board would vote. And Amara Wynn, the daughter they had once cast out, was no longer just attending the meeting. She was running it. Dressed in a tailored slate gray suit with black silk lining, Amara entered the boardroom with measured ease, flanked by her assistant James and two attorneys from WinCore's Strategic Acquisition Division. She didn't need to raise her voice. The quiet gasps, the shifting and leather chairs, and the subtle nods from key board members confirmed what she already knew. They had seen the numbers. They knew the truth. And most of them had already chosen her. Her father was already seated, arms crossed, expression like stone carved under pressure. To his left sat Finn, pale, tired, and noticeably absent of his usual arrogant smirk. His once crisp suit jacket was wrinkled, his cufflinks mismatched, details Amara noticed instantly. He looked more like a man unraveling than the golden boy of the Halden legacy. She took her seat at the head of the table, where her father had once sat. No one protested. Let's begin, she said, her voice calm and crystalline. Today's agenda: confirmation of leadership transition, consolidation of assets, and a vote on the full integration of Halden Industries under the WinCore corporate umbrella. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then murmurs, then the shuffle of notepads and tablets being raised. Her father cleared his throat. I think we should discuss this further before any irreversible action is taken. Amara leaned back slightly, eyes sharp but not unkind. You had 17 years to prepare for this discussion. Now we act. A few board members exchanged glances. One of them, Elias Dan, a veteran investor and longtime family ally, cleared his throat. Miss Wynn, he said cautiously, we've all reviewed the acquisition details. From a numbers perspective, this merger is our only viable path forward. Her father's jaw flexed. But, Elias continued, this is more than business for some of us. You were gone for years. Are you prepared to lead? Amara interrupted. I've been leading. While this company hemorrhaged contracts and public trust, I was building systems that saved lives, improved mental health, and modernized neural industries. Wyncore isn't just profitable, it's defining the future. She turned slightly, locking eyes with her father. And I did it all without the Halden name. The room was silent again, except for the soft tap of rain against the windows. Finn finally spoke. She's right. All heads turned. Even Amara's brow lifted slightly. I was given everything, Finn said, voice rough. And I thought that was enough. I thought loyalty to tradition was leadership. It wasn't. I failed. And the company almost died because of it. He looked across the table. I support the merger. Amara studied him carefully. There was no arrogance in his posture, no fake humility in his words. Just a man who had finally tasted the bitterness of accountability. Then her father stood, slow and deliberate, his hands resting on the table's edge. This company was built on discipline, he said. On legacy. I created something that stood for decades. And now you walk in with your flashy tech, your new age ideas, and expect us to hand it over? Amara rose to meet his height. I'm not asking for anything, she said. I already have it. This isn't a coup, it's a rescue. His voice cracked with fury. You think you're better than us? No, she said simply. Just better than what you made me believe I was. Her father faltered. For a brief moment, Amara saw the man who had once taught her how to calculate profit margins at age 9, who used to quiz her on strategic thinking during walks in the garden. A man who had seen potential in her, until she dared to question him. Let's vote, said Elias, breaking the silence. One by one, hands rose. Unanimous. Halden Industries was now officially under Wyncore's control. After the meeting, Amara walked through the estate alone, her heels echoing against the polished floor of the hall that once felt like a gauntlet. The portraits lining the walls hadn't changed, still frozen moments of Finn's ascension, of banquets and black tie events where she had never been invited. She paused at the central frame, the family's generational portrait. Her father in the middle, her mother poised beside him, Finn front and center, smiling confidently. She reached into her bag and pulled out a smaller, folded photograph, herself at the Wyncore launch 5 years ago, surrounded by a team of engineers and dreamers, holding the first prototype of her neural empathy interface. She taped it gently to the corner of the family portrait. It wasn't for them. It was for her. That evening, her mother knocked on the door of her guest suite. Amara was at her desk, reviewing integration plans. Can I come in? Her mother asked, voice softer than she remembered. Amara nodded. They sat in silence for a while. The tension was still there, but beneath it, something else had begun to stir. Guilt. Hope. Regret. I watched you today, her mother said finally. I've never been more proud. You didn't say that when he threw me out. Her mother winced. I know. I should have. I was afraid. I thought supporting you meant losing the rest of the family. You lost me anyway. I know, she whispered. Amara looked away, blinking once. Then, quietly, her mother said, do you think it's too late to be a family again? Amara sighed. I don't know. Maybe. Another silence passed. I made your favorite stew, her mother said. I don't suppose you'd come down for dinner? Amara hesitated. 15 years ago, she would have killed for that invitation. Now, she wasn't sure if she wanted it. But maybe, she said. Her mother smiled. And that was enough, for now. The boardroom was quiet, but humming with energy. Not the old kind, fear, confusion, pride, but something sharper. Constructive. Determined. It had been 2 weeks since Wyncore's acquisition of Halden Industries was made public. The media had a field day. Disowned heiress becomes corporate savior. Halden empire rebuilt by the daughter they rejected. Legacy reversed, the rise of Amara Wynn. Amara had ignored most of it. The headlines weren't the goal. Fixing what was broken, that was. She stood in front of a life strategy map projected across the glass walls of the newly renovated Central Command Room at Halden HQ. Her team from WinCore was already cross-pollinating with Halden's top engineers, many of whom had been shocked to discover the firm still had talent hidden beneath years of mismanagement. The only thing they'd lacked was leadership. Amara was changing that. Phase 1, she said, gesturing toward the holographic layout of divisions and restructuring flows. We consolidate our R&D efforts around emotional adaptive systems. Finn's department will lead product integration. I'll oversee strategic planning. A murmur ran through the group, positive, inquisitive. And Finn, to his credit, nodded along with quiet focus. There was no resentment in his posture. Only learning. Questions? Amara asked. One young analyst hesitated before raising his hand. Miss Wynn, sorry, Miss Halden, what do we call you now? A few chuckles rose. Amara smiled. Wynn works just fine. The name that built this. She tapped the air and pulled up a data chart showing a 48% increase in value projections post-merger. The room applauded. But not everyone was smiling. Her father, seated in the corner, remained silent, hands clasped, jaw tight. He hadn't spoken in any of the meetings so far. His new role, board advisor, no executive power, was a far fall from his former status as king of the hill. Still, he showed up. And that counted for something. Later that afternoon, Amara found herself in the old war room, the smaller strategy suite her father had once used to train her and Finn when they were children. It still had the original table, carved with the family crest. She traced a finger along the engraving. You remember when we simulated the Eastern Bloc acquisition from this very spot? A voice said behind her. She turned. It was Finn. No designer suit, no arrogance, just rolled up sleeves and a tired but honest expression. You were 12, he said, laughing softly. And you crushed me. I still have the printout of your defeat, Amara smirked. He sat beside her, more carefully now, like someone aware of what they carried. I was awful to you, he said. And not just then. I saw what you were building. I just didn't want to admit it. Because it meant I wasn't ready for what they gave me. She stayed silent. He continued, I thought if I played their game, I'd earn their respect. But you walked away. You built something real. Amara stared at the old family crest again. You know, she said, the day Dad threw me out, I didn't cry. Not that day. I waited until I was alone in a motel off Route 7. And then I cried so hard I gave myself a nosebleed. Not because I lost the company. Because I realized my own family thought I was disposable. Finn looked down. I knew it was wrong. But I didn't have the guts to speak up. Now she looked at him. And do you? He nodded slowly. I'm starting at the bottom, just like you said. I'm shadowing Emil from marketing. Next week I am joining ops for the field project. No titles. Just work. Amara believed him. Not because he said it, but because he meant it. That's a good start, she said. Earn your way back in. And us? He asked. She hesitated. Us is harder. Finn didn't argue. He just nodded again. Dinner Friday? Mom's making the honey roast. Amara exhaled. Maybe. Friday came faster than expected. After a day packed with department briefings, legal reviews, and a promising pitch from a young design team out of Berlin, Amara found herself standing in the hallway outside the estate's dining room. The smell of roasted carrots and spiced wine drifted through the air. The sound of low conversation. She lingered for a moment. Then entered. Her mother lit up at the sight of her. Finn looked genuinely pleased. Even her father looked up, though his expression remained guarded. Amara, her mother said. You're just in time. I won't be long, she said, sitting down. But she stayed longer than she meant to. They ate. They talked, awkwardly at first, then more naturally. Her father asked questions, real ones, about the neural empathy engine she'd pioneered. Finn described a hiccup in his market research project. Her mother brought out the honey roast with a proud grin and no emotional manipulation, just hope. They weren't healed. But they were trying. 6 months later, Halden Wynn Technologies, rebranded, refocused, was a rising force in adaptive computing. The integration of emotional intelligence into drone systems had opened new possibilities in rescue, therapy, even education. And Finn? He was no longer the heir. He was something better. Earned. Focused. A team lead who stayed late to mentor interns and early risers who brought his own coffee instead of expecting assistance. As for her father, he didn't interfere anymore. But once a week, he sent Amara a short email with insights or questions, never advice, just reflections. She replied occasionally. Her mother hosted Sunday dinners. They weren't perfect, but they were theirs. One evening, back in her Toronto office, Amara sat alone reviewing quarterly results. Profits were up. Staff morale had doubled. And an old black and white photo of her and Finn at age 9, arms around each other at a science fair, sat next to her screen. She smiled at it. Then her phone buzzed. Message from Finn. Mom says she's making your favorite for dinner. Chocolate lava cake. No pressure. Just. Thought you'd want to know. She stared at the message for a while. Then typed. Tell her I'll bring the wine. And hit send. Because sometimes building something better didn't mean erasing the past. It meant choosing to move forward, together. The sky over Toronto was bruised with evening clouds when Amara returned to the estate. It had been 8 months since the merger, and Halden Wynn Technologies was thriving. Stocks had stabilized. Innovation was surging. And within the company's walls, the culture had shifted, less hierarchy, more collaboration. Real change. But inside the estate, some walls had yet to fall. Her father had requested a private meeting. That alone made Amara pause. In all their years, Frederick Halden had never asked, he summoned, demanded, declared. Requesting something was new territory. He was waiting in the glass-walled conservatory overlooking the garden. She hadn't been in that room since the night she was disowned. Back then, it had been the setting for her sentencing, where pride crushed possibility, and love was eclipsed by tradition. Now, she stepped inside like someone entering an old battlefield. Her father stood slowly as she approached, his movements slower, but still deliberate. The tailored suit was gone. He wore a dark cardigan and pressed slacks, but something about his posture had softened, just barely. Thank you for coming, he said. I didn't say I would, she replied. I said I'd consider it. He gave a slight nod. And you came anyway. She crossed her arms. What do you want? He gestured toward the chairs by the window. Just to talk. She didn't sit. I watched your latest product launch, he said, filling the space. The neural interfaced rescue drones. Beautiful design. The adaptability in the response algorithms, it's beyond what I imagined 10 years ago. Amara said nothing. She'd learned the value of silence. Let them talk. Let them unravel. Her father rubbed his temple. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. She raised an eyebrow. Regret finally catching up to you? No, he said. Reflection. There's a difference. Her jaw clenched slightly. I see now, he continued, how much I let legacy blind me. I thought I was preserving strength, tradition. But I was clinging to control. And in doing so, I lost the only child who truly understood how to carry it forward. That made her pause. Not because it was an apology. But because it was the closest he had ever come. I didn't need you to hand me power, Amara said. I needed you to see me. To believe in what I was building. Not because I was your daughter, but because it mattered. He nodded slowly. I see it now. She shook her head. You see the success now. That's different. He didn't argue. And that, more than anything, proved he finally understood. They sat in heavy silence for a moment, until her father reached under the table and pulled out a small wooden box. He slid it toward her. I kept this. Even when I erased your name from the archives. I couldn't throw this away. She hesitated, then opened the box. Inside was a prototype circuit board, clumsy, soldered by hand, full of crossed wires and fragile bits. Her first neural pathway model. She had built it at 16, testing the idea that a system could respond emotionally to environmental cues. Her father had dismissed it as a toy. She remembered crying into her pillow that night. Amara closed the box and looked at him. "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because it's time you know. I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid you'd succeed without me. And you did." His voice cracked, just slightly. "It broke me, in ways I didn't admit." Amara sat back, the breath caught in her chest. This wasn't the same man who had thrown her out. It was someone older. Humbled. Perhaps even human. "I don't need an apology," she said. "Not for me. But maybe for her." She nodded toward the garden path, where her mother stood, pruning roses that no longer bloomed. "She loved you both," he said. "And you made her choose." He winced. "Yes. I did." They sat in silence again, longer this time. Then, finally, he said, "I'm not asking to be in control. I just want a seat at the table. One where I can contribute." Quietly. Amara stood. "You have that. You've had it for 8 months. You just haven't used it." He looked up at her. "And the family?" She hesitated. "That's more complicated." He nodded. "As it should be." Before she left, he added one final thing. "Every time I thought of legacy, I imagined strength, power, endurance. But you showed me that legacy isn't just what survives. It's what grows. You didn't preserve the name. You evolved it." She didn't respond. But her eyes softened. And when she left the conservatory, she left the box on the table, open. That weekend, Halden Wynn Technologies faced its first major crisis. A critical patch in their empathy-based home care system failed during a live rollout. One of the adaptive interfaces had triggered a recursive loop that caused emotional misfires in patient interactions. It wasn't life-threatening, but the media caught wind of it fast. Headlines screamed. "Can emotional AI be trusted? Malfunction in Halden Wynn's most sensitive technology." The PR team panicked. Developers scrambled. Analysts buzzed in the hallways like hornets. Amara didn't. She called a press conference. And she brought Finn with her. They stood side by side before a wall of reporters. Cameras flashed. Amara stepped to the podium. "Yes, there was a fault in our empathy home care interface," she said plainly. "We are not hiding it. We are addressing it. And we are learning from it." She gestured to Finn. "My brother led the development team that discovered the issue. He and his staff worked around the clock to isolate the trigger and deploy a fix. The system is stable again." Reporters murmured. One raised a hand. "Do you trust your brother with such a sensitive system?" Amara looked at Finn. Then back at the crowd. "I do," she said. And for the first time, she meant it. Afterward, Finn caught her in the hallway. "You didn't have to back me up." She looked him in the eye. "You earned it." He exhaled, the tension leaving his shoulders. "Thank you," he said. "Really. I meant what I said. Trust is earned, not given." Then she smirked. "Now let's make sure we never have to do that again." He laughed. And it was real. That night, Amara sat at her desk and opened a message her mother had sent, an old photo, slightly faded. It was of the garden, decades ago. She and Finn, maybe 5 and 7, building a model ship in the fountain. Their father watching from a bench. Back then, the future was still unwritten. She stared at the image for a long while, then opened a new tab on her interface and began drafting a memo. Subject: Proposal, Family Archive Wing. Initiative to document the complete history of Halden Wynn Technologies, including failures, recoveries, and all the people who shaped it. Because legacy wasn't about perfection. It was about truth. And truth was the only foundation worth building on. The elevator chimed softly as Amara stepped onto the top floor of Halden Wynn Technologies' new headquarters. A curved glass wall revealed the skyline bathed in early evening light, the city alive with motion. Below, drones glided between rooftops, and digital ads pulsed across towers with bright, shifting colors. This was the future she had built. But tonight, it wasn't the company's quarterly win nor another tech milestone on her mind. It was a dinner invitation. A real one. Sent by her brother Finn, this time not as a corporate request or formal email. Just a simple text. Dinner at the estate. No pitch decks. No business talk. Just us. She wasn't sure if it was the justice that made her pause, or the fact that she hadn't deleted it immediately. She glanced at her reflection in the elevator's mirrored interior. Same sharp suit, same focused eyes, but something had shifted. Over the past year, since reclaiming control of the company her family once barred her from, Amara had come to realize that some victories don't end with applause. They end with choices. And this one was hers. At the estate, the dining room felt different. Smaller, somehow. Or maybe it was just that the walls didn't feel so heavy anymore. Her mother greeted her at the door with a soft smile and a warm hug that lasted a second longer than expected. No board meetings tonight, she promised. Just your favorite stew. And yes, there's chocolate lava cake. Amara gave a faint smirk. You know I can't be bribed. I know, her mother said. But I can hope. In the dining room, Finn was already pouring wine. I swear I didn't make a PowerPoint, he joked, holding up his hands. Amara laughed. A real one. The three of them sat together. No suits. No title cards. Just family, damaged, flawed, trying. At first, the conversation tiptoed around the usual traps, weather, small updates, mild gossip. But eventually, it found steadier footing. Finn told her about an internal team he'd assembled, young talent from departments once neglected. They've got crazy ideas, he said, eyes lighting up. Wild stuff. But brilliant. Amara nodded, already forming 10 follow-up questions in her head, but she stopped herself. No pitch decks. No business talk. Just us. Instead, she asked, how are you holding up? Really? Finn paused, then shrugged. Better. I still don't sleep much, but I'm not afraid to ask for help anymore. That used to feel like weakness. It's not, she said. It's how leaders grow. He smiled. You would know. Later, after dessert, Amara stepped outside into the garden. The evening air was cool and scented with lilacs. The same ones her mother planted when she was 10. Her father was there. Seated quietly on the old bench under the arbor, dressed simply, hands folded, looking older than she remembered. For a moment, she considered turning back. But she didn't. May I? She asked, gesturing to the space beside him. He nodded. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind rustle through the leaves. Then he spoke. You've done more with this company than I ever did. She tilted her head slightly. I didn't do it alone. You could have, he said. She didn't reply. I look at Finn, he continued, and I see someone better because of you. He was given everything. But now? He's earning it. I made him, she said. Not with malice, just truth. I know, he said. Another pause. When you were born, he said, I told your mother we'd raise a leader. Someone who could carry the Halden name into the next century. I meant it. But somewhere along the way, I got scared. Scared of what? That you wouldn't do it my way. That you'd outgrow me. And you did. And I punished you for it. Amara let the words settle. It wasn't a formal apology. But it was real. I used to think, she said, that success meant proving you wrong. But now, I think it means giving people the chance to grow. Even if they once tried to stop you. He looked at her, really looked. Does that mean you forgive me? She considered it. I'm not sure forgiveness is a one-time thing, she said. It's more like a decision you keep making. Every day. And today? Today, she said, I'm choosing not to hate you. He nodded. That's a start. She smiled faintly. That's the long game. A few months later, Halden Wynn Technologies launched Project Echoline, a neural empathy platform designed to detect emotional trauma in post-crisis environments. It's adaptive AI adjusted to user feedback, offering personalized recovery experiences to thousands of people around the world. At the press conference, Amara stood beside Finn as he presented the team's findings. He spoke clearly, confidently. When the crowd erupted into applause, he stepped aside and gestured to her. She made all of this possible, he said. And for the first time, the title co-founder didn't feel like a technicality. It felt earned. Later that week, Amara received a small package at her office. Inside was a framed photo. Her and Finn, ages 5 and 7, building a model spaceship in the backyard, dirt on their faces, the sun shining behind them. Taped to the frame was a sticky note in her father's handwriting. "Thank you for proving me wrong, and giving me a chance to be part of something better." She placed it on the shelf beside her awards. Not because she needed the validation, but because it reminded her of something far more powerful. That true strength isn't in never falling. It's in how you rise, and who you choose to rise with. On Sunday, she returned to the estate again. Her mother opened the door with a grin. "Just in time," she said. "Dinner's almost ready." Amara stepped inside, setting down a bottle of wine and taking a long breath. This time, she stayed the whole evening. No spreadsheets. No sharp edges. No unspoken grief. Just warmth. And a long, quiet work of building something better, not just in business, but in blood, and trust, and time. Because maybe the real victory was never about reclaiming what she lost. Maybe it was about choosing what came next. And this was a start.